Greetings, I'm Zachary Hepner. I'm pleased to share this Dvar Torah with you for Parashat Mishpatim. Parashat Mishpatim is primarily known for the first aliyot, which describes the code called the covenant code. Because of the last section, in the final section of Mishpatim, the Israelites are told the covenant code, and they accept it. Moses erects 12 pillars, performs sacrifices. Then he reads from the sefer of the covenant. The Israelites respond, Naase Venishma. Moses sprinkles the sacrificial blood on the Israelites. There's a description of a national theophony. The leaders eat and drink unharmed. Moses waits for 6 days until God calls Moses on the seventh day to ascend Mount Sinai, where he is for 40 days to receive the tablets and the Torah and the commandments. In Exodus 24, Rashi mentions that this pericope took place before the Mount Sinai theophany, on the fourth day of Sivan. Rashi is referring to masechet Shabbat 86b through 88. The Mishna in 86a discusses the law of a poletet and analyzes the length of time called an onah. This leads up to the Gemara. Tanu Rabbanan, Bashishi b'chodesh nitnu aseret hadibot liYisrael, Rabbi Yossi omer b'shiva abo. The Talmud Kama says that the Decalogue was given on the 6th day of Sivan, while Rabbi Yossi says it was given on the 7th day of Sivan. The Gemara then analyzes all the narratives in Yitro and the end of Mishpatim, including Parashat Bo, chapter 12, including the Mara narrative in Parashat Beshalach, to figure out whether the second month of Iyar had a leap day in order that the Ten Commandments might have been given on the 6th or 7th day of that month, and also be on a Shabbat. The first question is this: what difference does it make? I'm not just asking because it might have occurred on this day, it might have occurred on that day, but nobody is disputing on whether such a covenant nor a theophany had occurred. Furthermore, the observance of Shavuot is by counting Shavuot, or in English, to reach Pentecost, you should count to Pentecost, which is Greek for 50. It's so elementary that even Rav Sadia Gaon polemically justified a second day of Shavuot when the notion of doubt, sveka dioma, is non-existent with Shavuot. Yet, Rashi felt it was noteworthy to emphasize that the acceptance of the covenant code took place before the Sinai theophany, and it is out of order from a greater narrative. It is not an original idea of mine, but a well-known notion that when Moses sprinkled the blood of the 12 pillar sacrifices over the Israelites, he was in some sense giving them a conversion process. I'd like to expand that idea with more questions. I'd like to provide a meta-halachic purpose to why it is theologically important to have retroactively known which day of the month these rituals and narratives took place. The Mishna in Zvachim, chapter 1, states, Zehaklal kol hashochet v'hamakabel v'hamelech v'hazorek. There are 4 critical actions in a sacrifice: slaughter, collecting, taking the blood to the altar, and sprinkling the blood. These 4 critical actions are so fundamental that their performance must be performed in the right location, by the right person, in the right time, and with the right intentions. The first 7 chapters of Masechet Zvachim deals primarily with this and how it can go wrong. Not location, 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 but rather location, loquation, determination. The great sin is when one provides all the actions correctly, in the right time, the right person, but mistaken intention, and it leads to pigul, or pigul, a grave sin, and a disqualification for the sacrifice. I always thought it was funny. It's like saying, nobody, think about the large pink elephant wearing the tutu in the room. Tradition makes such a big deal about aligning the intentions with the actions that it almost entices the priest to have the wrong intentions of the wrong place or the wrong time. Remember, back to the narrative. Let's have a closer reading. Remember, there are 4 critical avodot: hamahalech in Talmudic language is called hagasha. This appears in the narrative numerous times. V'nigash Moshe, vehem lo yigashu. Sprinkling is also in the narrative. Vayikach Moshe et Adam vayizrok al ha'am. Moses sprinkled the blood on the people. Kabbalah, collecting, is in the verse Vayasem ba'aganot. Moshe placed the blood in basins. Knowledge of which day is an important part of the text. Let them be ready for the third day. On the third day God will come down in the sight of all the people on Mount Sinai. The specifics of location of a sacrifice takes chapters of masechet tzvachim. In Exodus 19 it says, "You shall set bounds for the people around, saying, beware of going up to the mountain, or touching border of it. Whoever touches the mountain shall be put to death. Without being touched, or by being stoned or shot, beast or person, a trespasser shall not live. When the ram's horn sounds the long blast, they may go up the mountain." Beast or person? Is the text elevating the notion of an animal to a person, or is it equating a person to a beast? What about shechita, slaughtering, another critical part of the avodah? I have two suggestions. One suggestion is ki'ilu slaughtering, as if slaughtering. The narrative is the famous Har Kigigit narrative, when God turns the mountain upside down into a bowl and tells the Israelites that if they accept the Torah, great. If not, they will be buried on the spot. That is ki'ilu slaughtering, as if he's slaughtering. But I believe that Rashi was on to something bigger. This narrative is connected to the Ten Commandments narrative. And Chazal state in Midrash Tanchuma and Shir Hashirim Rabbah 5:16-3, Rabbi Azariah and Rabbi Acha said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, when Israel heard at Sinai, Anochi, I am the God, I'm the Lord your God, their souls departed. The Midrash teaches that the highest epiphany on the Mount Sinai theophany was itself a human sacrifice to the Almighty. The Midrash then continues, Tani Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, Torah shenatan HaKadosh Baruch Hu liYisrael hechezira lehen nafshotehem. Rashi taught that the Torah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave to Israel resurrected them. Parenthetically, note that the dibur of Anochi, the first word of the Decalogue uttered by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, caused them to die. But it wasn't God per se that fixed the dilemma, but the Torah which they had been given that returned their spirits to their bodies. Now we might glean some insight into masechet Shabbat and why it was so important for the sages to know which day exactly these events took place. The events are metaphysically transfiguring the Israelites into a sacrifice. As one view in Tosafot interprets the Ishe Yisrael utfilatam, not as the sacrifices of Israel, but Ishe Yisrael, Israel, who is a sacrifice. Here too, Israel is incarnate, the sacrifice. Back to the original question. Why did the Gemara spend almost 2 pages in Masechet Shabbat trying to figure out what day of the month this took place? Each and every Jew has to renew his commitment to the Almighty every day. Not only every day, but twice a day. As the sefer says, right after the repeat of the Decalogue in Deuteronomy 5 is the Shema in Deuteronomy 6. V'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavcha hayom al levavecha. Take to heart these instructions with which I charge you. The sefer says, Kachadasha, shehakol ratzin likrata. That this is something new that everybody is running to do. Truly recreating the Sinai experience is to become a human sacrifice to God. And that requires intention of place, space, and time. To avoid pigul, one must know that this time was a singularity point in history. And the sages needed to conjure up that day in the historical calendar. That way, the Shavuot experience is not only a celebration of the past, but a personal, votive recreation of what happened. And where exactly does one recreate his sacred votive commitment? Hayom al levavecha, today and on your hearts. Wishing you all a Shabbat Shalom.